Good morning. Welcome to Tip Off. We'll dig into last night here in a second. Thanks so much for making this part of your day. It's been really cool. A lot of people have more and more come up to me recently and kind of said, "Oh, I catch Tip Off every morning. It's a part of my day." I really, really, really appreciate that. In the upcoming weeks, me and Guy Bill over at the Jazz are working hard to try to improve the Locked On Jazz portal. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it sounds good. Portal. I like internet words. The cloud, portal. You kind of say these things, they sound like you're really cool. Okay, frankly, I don't know anything. I just use them all. So if you have any suggestions, I really want to amp this up, take it to another level, make it the primary way where you get your information and we connect. And I've always said since the day I was named the radio play-by-play announcer that I wanted to find a way to have a 365-day relationship with the fan base, and I want to push toward that continually. So any thoughts are always welcome. You can email me at dlock@Utah Jazz. You can hit me on the Locked On Sports Facebook page. You can send it to me via Twitter. Probably email might be the best, dlock with an e at utahjazz.com. I think many of you know more than I do about this. Many of you, you're using it, so you probably have a better understanding of what you want than I do. So thank you. If you have a second, I appreciate it. You know the story, right? We started Facebook as Locked On Sports Loyalists, and we thought it'd be a group of like 120 people that could be our like advisory body to the show. Yeah, it got a little bigger than that. Facebook exploded. Update on the 640 drop-off yesterday. Just the kids were generally okay. I beat them before they rang the doorbell. The only problem was that I sent my daughter, who heard them, so she got up on her own, up to wake up my son, and then the three other kids decided it'd be really fun to jump on him. My son did not think that was the best way to wake up, but that's just kids being kids. So that was all painless. Hope you're well. Last night's one that definitely gives us a lot of things to chew on, a lot of things to talk about. Bottom line on last night is, and I don't. We're playing hard. We're playing together. We're not great. Like we're just. I know Earl's talked about 1, 2, or 3 in the West. We don't have that makeup of guys, and so every night is going to be a scuffle and a struggle. I mean, I will say we were up 18, and I was like, wow, I just didn't see this team running away from people this year. I said that to Ron during the timeout. Like I don't see that happening. And then when you looked back, we did it to the Clippers without Chris Paul. But I just don't see that. So you're going to get into tussles. And it was clear by halftime that game was going to go to the wire. And then when we went to the wire, without Al, we just don't have guys who can easily get their shots off. I mean, Paul makes 2 amazing plays, the tip-in follow and the 3, but both those are, great hustle play on the tip-in and just kind of a prayer on the 3, fortuitous timing maybe on in some sense. Really great play on the tip-in. But the 2 times Paul got the ball late trying to make a play, he didn't get a shot off. And, Devin, as great as he was in the first half, simply wasn't able to penetrate and make a play. You got Al in the post. It certainly would have helped. Teams have had a lot of injuries, though, and we've been the benefactor of most of those teams with injuries, so I hate to start blaming that. But, just that's the value Al has here is that Al, you can get the ball in the post and generally can always get his shot off. We don't have a lot of other guys that can always get that shot off. And for all of the talk of Paul as an all-star, and he certainly has played at an all-star level, that's undeniable. Where he is lacking would be that Aldridge can always get his shot off. Gasol can probably always get his shot out. I'm not sure Kevin Love can. That's where the being undersized kicked in last night. Is he just those 2 key plays with chances to win the game? He couldn't get them off. The other thing is Toronto. Toronto made 2 plays. Jose Calderon hit 2 deep threes. If one of those rims out, it's a totally different game. But, he hit one from the logo. So that give them credit, but it also, that's kind of – neither of the – when Bargnani went out of the game, neither team had anybody who could get a shot off. And so you end up with Calderon's shot for the logo goes. Millsap tips in a air ball from Hayward. Millsap hits a miracle three. And really, if you look at how the points were being scored late in that game, neither team had the guy that could go make the play. Other things throughout the game, a lot of other questions coming up. Let me see if I can touch them. First of all, Devin got going, which was nice. That was a lot of the focus. He played very, very well in the first half. And then the game ground to a halt in the second half, so he didn't get out as much. But you saw in that first quarter who he is. He's a transition player. He's an open court player. He's a little bit of a pick and roll guy. And when we do grind to a halt, as happens as games continue and get later in the game, and we're trying to get into the post and play that game, then he's not at his strength. And so his speed and quickness is an open floor speed and quickness, not necessarily a half court speed and quickness. And so I think last night actually was a good summary of the kind of game he has to play to be successful, and then where he becomes a distributor. But he is still running the offense, doing what he needs to do. He seemed I talked to him for a while before the game last night, and he seemed pretty collected about just kind of some of the criticism and all of that. Gordon Hayward is scuffling. And, I think the easy answer, well, I don't know what the easy answer is. Answer is that entire draft class is struggling. I thought both Gordon and Derek had tough nights last night. Not tough nights just because of who they are and where they are in their careers. Not tough nights like that they didn't put out the effort or anything like that. Gordon just doesn't have there's some things he hasn't figured out how to do yet. Derek doesn't have a true post move. And the offseason, I really just believe this, that entire draft class is playing really quite poorly. I mean, the entire second year draft class, and I think we've talked about this before in tip-off, if you just run down the list of players in that 2010 draft, they're not playing well. Evan Turner's not playing well. John Wall's not playing well. Favors, Johnson, DeMarcus Cousins, Udo. Greg Monroe is playing well because he's getting more opportunity, but he shot 55% last year. He's shooting 51% this year. His rebounding is about the same, and his points are way up because they're going to him. I really liked him. But Al-Farouq Aminu is the pick before Gordon Hayward is shooting 36% right now. John Wall has been miserable. He's shooting 39%. Evan Turner is just not having much of any impact. He's up to 10 points a game, and he might be the one guy who was playing so badly last year. He's playing better. Wesley Johnson's at 37%. I mean, it's brutal. And maybe I'll have to write about this so you guys can see the numbers. It's stunning how bad it is. Paul George is maybe having a little bit of a better year. He's hitting the three at a better rate, but otherwise he's about the exact same as he was last year. His points per 36 minutes are actually down. His rebounding's down, but he's playing a larger role. And then, frankly, that draft after Gordon Hayward and Paul George, that draft was a 10-player draft. There's not a player that jumped in. All of those guys are struggling. Last night, Gordon is just in. He's missed 10 straight threes. I mean, he's getting to the rim and he can't get up to get the shot off. He hasn't figured out a mid-range game. He's got to figure out a way to be an asset offensively. He's playing pretty well defensively. We continually see people try to take it at him and almost like, oh, we can punk this kid, and they can't do it, which has been awfully interesting to see. Favors just has no post moves. I mean, you can't give him the ball in the post right now and get anything out of him. There was one last night, and one post move last night. People are hammering, well, why did Ty keep both of them on the floor? I mean, I think it might be I think there's a legitimate conversation. I always think it's a legitimate question. So why? I think that's who he was running with. Those were the guys he thought were his five best. Cantor would have been the guy you bring in instead of Favors. Without Al, legitimate question, but I'm not sure we're there yet. CJ's the guy you bring in instead of Gordon, and CJ has really got a terrible track record of play late in games, though he's still very young, so it's hard to tell whether or not that's whether that's still the case. But if you go look at his career, which I'll pull up for you in a second, he is a miserable late game player. And he doesn't, I'm not sure that that's who he is. So I would just say, keep an eye on. I mean, I think there's a legitimate question, but I also think Ty has just as equally a legitimate answer as to why he stayed with those guys. There probably was some fatigue issue. that should be mentioned as well. In C.J. Miles' career, in late game situations, in clutch situations, he shoots 35% from the field. Um, and in the final 2 minutes of games, he shoots 21% from close games. I mean, he has just not been a late game player. And frankly, he's not a very good shooter. So I keep reading, well, why don't you keep CJ to spread the floor? He's not a good shooter. He's becoming to be a penetrator, which will make him a viable player. But he is not a good shooter in any way, shape, or form, really. So last night, hey, it's a gut wrencher, and you got to have those. And we've been brilliant this year to get those. That's how we got the record at 10-5. And I am still holding on this that making the playoffs is going to be is really a quantumly huge jump from where I expected this team to be. And I think it's incredible that a quarter pole into the season we actually can talk about that. And it's great credit to everybody involved, but I still think it's going to be really difficult. Last night was kind of a wacky night. More road teams won than home teams, and difficult matchups, kind of games all the way around. Saturday, by the way, Jimmer comes to town. He's had 3 decent games in a row, which is just terrific. And I said the other night when I watched him that for the first time I was seeing him make some plays instead of getting outclassed. He still has some moments where he doesn't look good, but he's making some plays. So hopefully he can have a great night in Salt Lake. Not good enough for the Kings to beat the Jazz, but hopefully have a great night because I think that's important. I think that fired – and Gordon needs another one of those moments again to get himself rolling. And I think those are important moments. Jimmer's having a few of them right now. It's nice to see. And as I've said with Jimmer, it's easy to dismiss the rookie year, but his rookie year is very important. His rookie year is a big-time telltale sign of where he's going to be as a player. Let's go to tip-off questions. Has seemed to lack confidence in the jump shooting. This leads to passing on open shots. Can this be fixed? That's from Ty Manin. Well, they're not very good shooters. I mean, I hate to be – so they probably do lack confidence. I mean, Devin's a 30% three-point shooter. Raj is probably the best shooter of the group. He was playing a lot of minutes. His one jump shot came off really flat. Gordon's obviously not shooting well at all. So – yeah, we don't, and CJ is overly confident for in that regard because he's really not that good a shooter. So I would say, I guess I thought there were a lot of times guys would pass some shots. That's my point of the opening of the show today, where we just didn't have guys that could make plays. Joshua Polson, is there any way that Favors becomes a starter for this team with Jefferson and Millsap still on the team? Well, that's a good long-term question. Favors has still certainly got some work to be done to become that starter. And when he plays, he's so talented that when he plays, he puts up numbers. I mean, his box score looks really good last night. I don't think his game was. I think he made a lot of defense mistakes. Those are hard for me to always evaluate. I think he not only made those defensive mistakes, but I think just offensively you could go to him a bunch of times. He just is not together in that regard on the pick and roll and things of that sort. And so that's a real struggle for Derek right now. And so he's got to get those things to become a starter, and that's probably in this offseason. I wouldn't worry about – I don't see him starting anytime this year, and then you get into Al's final year of his contract, so you probably have to figure it out. A lot of people wanting CJ on the floor. It's interesting to me how I wish I actually had the time to – I wish I had someone to keep track of everybody who tweeted in and see which day they're on one side of an issue and what day they're on the next side of an issue. Back-to-back tweets on tip-off are CJ should have played more. Hayward needs to be more selfish. But, the question on whether Ty should have substituted some more, I think that's a legitimate question. But you go with your guys, and he'll probably think about it the next time the other way around. All right, it is we're into about 15 minutes. That's where I want to keep this thing. Please send me your thoughts, your ideas, your comments. Summation on last night. Those are going to happen to this team. It was wonderful when they didn't happen. We're not so good that we're overwhelming people with talent every night. And we just lacked guys who could make a play late, which really ground the game down to a halt and made it difficult to jump away. And we'll all focus late in the game, but I would tell you that the key stretch of the game to me was out of the first time out of the fourth quarter, the Jazz were up 7, and I thought that was where you had to throw the knockout punch, and instead it went the other way. Those are my thoughts. Share yours with me. Let's continue to interact. I might try Google Hangout from the road. We'll see. Talk to you guys soon.